Welcome to Cheating Stories. Please give this video a like and subscribe to our channel, Cheating Stories. Story 1A Shocking Discovery. I have 3 children, 2 daughters, ages 5 and 8, and a 15-year-old son. Recently, I discovered that my wife has been having an affair with the father of one of my middle daughter's friends. This is deeply unsettling because all of my children have interacted with this man in various ways. Initially, I didn't think much of my wife taking our daughter to his house for playdates. However, 2 days ago, while my wife was in the shower, I noticed a suspicious message on her phone from someone named Aomi. I couldn't open her phone due to facial recognition, but it made me uneasy. That night, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. My wife and I usually keep our devices unlocked for transparency, so this felt unusual. The next day, when my wife asked why I was restless, I mentioned her locked phone. She explained that she locks it because the kids often play with it, but she avoided eye contact, which made me even more suspicious. The following day, I asked my middle daughter about her playdates at Aomi's house. She eagerly described the fun they had but hesitated when mentioning that sometimes her mom and Aomi would go into a room and lock the door or go out without her. She sheepishly revealed that her mom had told her not to talk about it because they were playing adult games with Aomi in the room. I was furious and confronted my wife, who was caught off guard. Despite her attempts to deny it, my daughter recounted things she had overheard, and my wife eventually admitted to the affair. She claimed it was meant to be a one-time occurrence, but she confessed to loving both him and me. I challenged her on this, and she insisted she didn't want to break up our family. To me, this translates to her wanting an open marriage, as she refuses to end the relationship or file for divorce. I realized she couldn't have it both ways. I've scheduled a meeting with a lawyer today to start the divorce process. I've also informed my in-laws and parents about the situation. They are willing to support me in any way they can. They have even expressed a desire for me to have full custody of the children. I understand this might be challenging unless my wife willingly gives up her parental rights, which seems unlikely. She knowingly exposed our kids to this deception, and the involvement of the other man complicates matters further. The character of Aomi is also concerning. He has a history of alcohol problems, manipulation, anger issues, and control, having gone through 2 divorces himself. I am genuinely worried about having my children around such a negative influence. This concern is shared by my in-laws, who are familiar with him since he used to live nearby. Their desire for me to pursue full custody stems from their understanding of his character. I am struggling with the decision of whether to tell my children the truth. While I fear they might develop negative feelings towards their mother, I also believe honesty is the best policy. At the same time, I am cautious about how this could be perceived during divorce proceedings, potentially being seen as an attempt to alienate my spouse. Many around me, including my in-laws, are urging me to talk to the kids about the situation in a simplified manner. How do you explain to a 5 and 8-year-old that their mom has developed strong feelings for a friend's dad, leading to the decision that their parents can't stay married? I know my wife prefers to shield them from this truth, but I believe she has already indirectly exposed them to it, making it hard to keep secrets. Coming from a broken family myself, I have always wanted to spare my kids from that pain. I want to make the right choice, but people change, and that's something we can't control. My main concern is ensuring my kids aren't hurt. I talked to my lawyer, who has 30 years of experience, and she advised me not to seek revenge but to focus on living a good life. I know that's important, but I find it hard to lie to my kids because I have always been honest with them. I think I need to tell my 15-year-old some of the truth without all the details. He's very observant and has always asked tough questions, like when he asked about where babies come from when he was 5. I'm sure he'll ask about this situation too, especially as time goes on. My main concern is my kids' well-being, and I am prepared for them to need therapy to help them through this. It's noticeable that the other man struggles to maintain relationships, and his immaturity is evident, making it puzzling why my wife is drawn to him. I stumbled upon an old phone of hers and discovered their texts and pictures. It's not a matter of physical appearance, he's rather inadequate in that aspect. He doesn't have more financial resources or any noteworthy attributes. I have gathered substantial evidence since learning about the situation. I've been documenting everything and waiting for the right moment to use it. I've already taken steps like canceling credit cards and separating finances. Additionally, I've consulted with a lawyer and paid the retainer to proceed with the legal process. Story 2: Unraveling a disturbing situation. I'm a 37-year-old man, and I've been married to my wife for 7 years. We've always had strong communication, working through our disagreements and conflicts. Despite my best efforts, my wife has always been reserved. She's self-conscious about her body due to her scars, but I've consistently assured her of her beauty and my desire for her. This detail seems important given the current situation. My wife is a teacher, which keeps her busy during the school year but allows for a 3-month break over the summer. About a month and a half ago, she started showing signs of distancing and withdrawal. While I stuck to my usual 9 to 5 summer schedule, she would stay up late on her phone while I went to bed. She seemed constantly engrossed in her phone or spent time with her mother. Our interactions became less frequent, and she often stayed at her mother's house until I was ready for bed. Sometimes, I would wake up in the middle of the night to use the bathroom and find her texting on her phone around 1 or 2 a.m. This happened intermittently for about a month. Then, about 2 weeks ago, I received an unexpected Facebook message from a woman I didn't know. She claimed to be the wife of a man who was getting close to my wife on Facebook Messenger. Curious, I checked the man's profile and found him on my wife's friend list. Strangely, he lived about 300 miles away. When I got home from work that day, I mustered the courage to talk to my wife about it. I relayed the information shared by the other woman, revealing that she was the wife of the man in question. My wife admitted in a hushed tone that she had indeed been communicating with him but insisted that nothing inappropriate was happening. Our conversation continued, and I eventually asked if she would be willing to show me their conversations. This was a significant request since trust had always been a cornerstone of our relationship, and neither of us had felt the need to snoop through each other's phones before. After some resistance, arguments, and more of her assurances that it was all innocent, she finally allowed me to read the messages. I started scrolling back to the beginning, tracing their interactions from the start of the summer. Their conversations began quite innocuously as they were rekindling an acquaintance from their mutual friends back in college. Their initial interactions revolved around polite greetings and catching up. However, after a few days of these typical exchanges, the man began steering the conversation towards intimate subjects. He recounted a sexual encounter with his wife as a segue to probe my wife about her own sexual preferences. What caught me off guard was her willingness to engage in such discussions. She usually struggled to discuss such matters with me but was surprisingly open with this guy. They delved into topics like their preferences, whether she preferred being shaved or not, and even if she liked certain acts. These were subjects she wouldn't even broach with her friends. To my astonishment, their conversations escalated further. He initiated sending her explicit pictures and even requested similar images from her. While I never saw any of these images in the chat, I know that messages can be deleted. However, there was no indication of missing messages in the conversation. Whenever he sent a picture, she kept the conversation going, casually avoiding his request for pictures in return. Even though I was shocked by her explicit response and the nature of their conversation, I was still taken aback. Naturally, she tried to downplay the whole situation. I asked if I could check the rest of her phone to see how far things had gone, given the seriousness of what had happened. She quickly refused and got defensive. A few days later, my curiosity and paranoia got the better of me. One night while she was asleep, I couldn't resist looking into it further. I searched her phone and found that she had Snapchat installed, but it was logged out and had no login details as if it had never been used. However, I found around 40 pictures in her camera roll showing her in lingerie and a few nude photos. What shocked me the most was that I had never seen these images before, and they had all been captured within the past 20 days. The exchanges with the other man abruptly ceased, at least on Messenger. I've held off on confronting her because I haven't found concrete evidence of anything beyond just conversations, so I've been grappling with this dilemma. Recently, over the past 2 weeks, she's taken a dramatic turn in behavior. She's become remarkably flirty, bubbly, and even more overtly sexual with me than she has been in the past year. She sent me suggestive texts, including some of the photos I had previously discovered. She even tried to entice me to leave work early for some fun. The situation has me utterly baffled. Part of me is drawn to embrace this newfound energy, while another part suspects it might be a facade or a diversion from something deeper. Consequently, I've chosen to play along and explore this unexpected behavior further. Our intimate life reached an intensity it had never reached before. My wife seemed to go to great lengths to satisfy me, Yet I couldn't shake the feeling that she was pretending, perhaps in an attempt to ease my suspicions. While I had no qualms about our physical connection, I sensed that her strategy wasn't fooling me. I decided to take a day off work to investigate whether an affair might be happening during her school hours or her commute back home. The following day, I discreetly followed her to work. Around midday, I observed her leaving her workplace and took this as my cue to proceed. I trailed her car for about a mile until she pulled into a motel parking lot. I patiently waited a few minutes for her to enter the reception area before I stepped out of my car. Wearing an overcoat, I maintained a safe distance between us. She told the receptionist she was meeting someone and was given a room number. A couple of minutes later, I followed her to the room. Unfortunately, my suspicions were confirmed, and I was shocked. I took a moment to process what was happening, then knocked on the door, and a man wearing only a towel answered. I pushed past him and saw my wife in bed, trying to cover herself with a blanket. She stammered, asking why I was there, which seemed like a painfully naive question. I just shook my head in disbelief, left the room, and drove home. Once I got home, filled with anger, I quickly packed my wife's belongings and put them outside. I contacted her family and told them what happened, and they begged me to try to talk things over. A few hours later, my wife came back, begging me not to give up on our marriage, but it was too late. She had already destroyed the foundation of our relationship. I asked her to leave and blocked her on all communication platforms. My next step is to consult a divorce lawyer to start the process of ending our marriage for good. Story 3: A suspicious night. My partner, a 21-year-old woman, and I, a 23-year-old man, work in the same warehouse and have graveyard shifts. Before bed, we usually FaceTime to talk about our day and say goodnight, but tonight was different. She thinks I'm asleep, but I had to write this post to get things off my chest. We share our locations on our phones, and I don't usually check hers. Tonight, though, I noticed it. We had planned to FaceTime at a specific time, but when I messaged her to see if we were still going to call, I saw that her notifications were silenced. We both have iPhones. It seemed odd, so I checked her location and saw she was at Starbucks. I thought, oh, she's just getting something for tonight. A few minutes later, I checked again to see if she was almost home, but this time, she was parked about a block away from her house for about an hour. I got a bit nervous and started wondering if she was with someone. After an hour, she finally texted me, saying, "Sorry, my love. I did want to talk tonight, but my mom had me washing and folding laundry, so I got distracted. What should I think about this? Should I bring it up with her tomorrow at work? How should I start a conversation about it, or should I just ignore it and keep going with the relationship?"